Thanks for staying on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a headline segment live on GTV Breakfast. I'm Thelma Taki. God has blessed us with another day, and we are here to look at all the stories that are in the newspapers. I sit with the ladies every Friday, and today is no different. I have Shamima Muslim, Development Communication, as well as Gender and Inclusion Specialist and convener of the Alliance for Women in Media Africa, Shams. Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome back. The edges are edging.
Are they? Good morning, my darling sister.
Now I try new is a communication expert now.
Lady T.
How are you?
I'm well.
PPAG people doing well.
You see, and I told me still active. We are well. I mean, we are well.
Last week, someone approached me asking for a counselor's number.
Okay, so you gave it.
I said PPAG would know.
Thank you.
Some great counselor.
And I'm sure you should then reach out to the person and take feedback. I mean, your independent judgment of what you'll be able to do for the person. So please get the number and get back to the person.
It would be good.
Yeah.
Ladies, there are lots of stories in the newspapers, but let's take what is on our minds this morning, your thoughts of the day, and then perhaps we'll get into the details of what's before us this morning. Shams, you want to go first?
Right. So, good morning, and I want to say some special greetings to a number of people. I mean, for the past 2 days, that's I think on Wednesday and Thursday it was, we're at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Over 300 women entrepreneurs who are owners, founders, managers of small and medium scale enterprises convened under the auspices of ABSA, Ghana, as well as its partners in Kenya, Zambia, Uganda, and so many others, several hundreds who joined virtually as well. And we were there to talk about empowering women's economic, development. And the same issue we raised about the mental health issue that Na just referenced, and you also spoke about counselors. It was one of the key things that came up. A lot of women are going through a lot of stress, especially women who are owning and running and managing businesses. And so one of the reasons why ABSA is doing this is to ensure that every year they're bringing together and supporting women business owners. And I think that's so novel, so that's so creative. The power in the room and the creativity in the room, the energy, the resilience of the women in the room, and the leadership that Abina Osei-Poku, who is the MD, is providing. ABSA is one of the banks that currently apparently has parity in terms of senior executive positions. It's almost 50-50 for men and women. The MD is female, Abina Osei-Poku. The board chair is female, Mrs. Frances Edumante. And they were all there. I mean, Audrey, Georgette, Audrey is the head of SME banking. And I just want to share some of the key highlights that came up. And for all women who are watching us this morning, to know that, in fact, apparently, women are the backbone. We've known this for a while of the informal economy. They're the ones that has and run the most SMEs on the African continent. MasterCard Foundation, who was represented by Kafu Mills, is one of the partners, has been issuing annual reports. Ghana, at a point, I think about 3 or so years ago, was the top in terms of the country that had the most women-owned SMEs. We came ahead of countries like Russia, ahead of countries in European nations. But, of course, the catch is that these women are running small and medium-scale enterprises. They are running tabletops, but they are resilient. They are able to respond to the times. One of the key issues that came up is that we are currently operating in an environment called the bunny world, where everything is brittle, where there's a lot of anxiety, where there's non-linearity. So you cannot say if B, then if A, then B. No, I mean, COVID will come and disrupt you. Other things will come and disrupt you. So you just need to understand and be resilient. And the buzzword there is that to really deal with this, anxiety, and it's incomprehensible. The bunny world is an acronym that describes the current business, environment that many businesses have to operate with. One of the buzzwords that came up was that doubt your doubts. Don't be beholden by the doubts you have about yourself, about your situation. And anytime you find yourself doubting yourself, doubt, that's doubt. to lift yourself up of that frame and begin to look at opportunities. So we had topics about empowering women's economic growth. We had conversations around how women can have access to capital, which is one of the key things that came up. And we had speakers from, over 30 speakers from Kenya. There was this woman, Flora, who is the largest distributor of manufacture of herbal and flavored teas in Kenya, and who currently heads the Kenyan Manufacturing Association. She says, don't be in a hurry to scale up. Don't be in a hurry to start exporting when you haven't conquered your local markets. Don't be pressured by anybody if you're an SME to grow at a rate that you're not ready. Ensure you understand your business, ensure you know yourself, ensure you understand your purpose, and ensure you understand the business environment that you're operating with. And also seek for knowledge. You know, David Ofosupo Dote was there, and he spoke about the importance of mindset and how women entrepreneurs must adopt the right mindset in viewing opportunities and taking advantage. And JEPA was also there. Apparently, they have so many beautiful products and opportunities to support small and medium-scale enterprises. So I'd like to encourage women who are in businesses, visit their website. They even have hubs that you can come for meetings, you can seek advice, and you register with them. They're able to take you to exhibitions across the world so that you can sell your product. So there's information out there. Seek information, adopt the right mindset, and know that you, the woman entrepreneur, you are the backbone of this nation's development.
Thank you, Shams. Doubt your doubt.
Doubt your doubt.
Take away from this. Now, what's on your mind?
I mean, I've made so many notes from what Shams just said. Thank you so much. I mean, when you shared the link, I followed.
Okay.
But I mean, I think I followed halfway, so I've filled some potholes that I had to. I think my thought is about not ongoing, because at least they've gone back home, picketing that just happened this week with buffer stock, and to share a few thoughts.
The food suppliers?
Yes, the food suppliers, I mean. And so, Thelma, I was just thinking, we just came out of school feeding caterers who are also, I mean, agitating. I mean, we are not cooking for the kids. Government is, indebted to us. And I was asking, can we just actually run some of these social policies without some of these bottlenecks? By first thinking, where are we going to get very sustainable funds? Because it's like every now and then government, I mean, we are owing, people say that, but every now and then one group or another is saying that, well, we are being owed. And more worrying is the fact that, see, a buffer stock cannot become an empty stock, you know. It is to be the buffer. I mean, if not for anything at all, there should be food there, okay, to be sent across secondary schools in the country. And I'm saying this in relation to the Binduri Secondary School that has just been closed down. It wasn't closed down just for the sake of food, but I mean, food has become very basic.
The students said they had no food.
Indeed. Maslow's theory of needs, physiological, beneath the base, you need food, you need, water and stuff like that. And so at the core of it is the fact that students don't have food, to live on. And not having food has implication on academic work. Not only academic work, also has implication on, the health outcomes of these students. Now, Thelma, you see, it is also because of how we run resources for the free SHS. I'm learning that 70% of resources that government allocates to the free SHS goes into feeding, consumption, and then 30% goes into other administrative expenses. Now, I keep saying on this platform that the stomach doesn't know that the pocket is empty. And so because food is basic, and it means that once you owe, these schools, you owe them food or whatever resources you owe them, at the core of it is the fact that you owe them food, right? And then that has led to even agitations from students. I don't know, the youth are naturally hyper, so we shouldn't bait them to get them to be, more hyper. I like the fact that so in recent time we've seen students use very unprintable words at authorities in this country. But when I was watching some of these videos from Binduri Senior High School, not to say I was happy, but at least I was okay that these students were able to express their anger, their displeasure in a more, more polite, more respectful way. And I tell myself that, so they are listening to some wisdom, and then we are making progress. So for everything that can be denied or delayed these students, food cannot. You can say that you are delaying textbooks, so that even if it's just one in the classroom, they should photocopy and use, or the teacher should, share, or 3 students to 1 textbook. But food has become so basic. And then you see, I was just on a lighter note, telling a friend that maybe if this National Association of Suppliers, they were a constituency lying wait for a by-election, their arrears would have been paid. And that is it. If they were a constituency, like my constituency, okay, awaiting, lying wait for a by-election to happen tomorrow, before tomorrow that the Electoral Commission goes there, to run that by-election, the arrears would have been paid. And so let us not give people the opportunity to, talk at policies that are actually meant to help people. Once all these agitations come, it takes away the very essence, the beauty of the thought, of the energy, of the effort that has gone into the implementation process.
Our cameras were in that Day Senior High School, Binduri Senior High School in the Upper East region, which was forced to close down temporarily because of lack of food for the students.
The students on Tuesday morning went on a peaceful protest over the shortage of food. The students said they have been studying on empty stomachs since 29th May 2023.
Our school, they have stopped cooking for us. They stopped cooking for us. That was 29th May. Up to date, they haven't started cooking for us. We have sent it to the authorities, but there is no feedback. That's the reason why we are out here.
Our concern of this one, why we are not in school, but we are just roaming all over, is about our food matter. Because we are now to tell the government that if you cannot provide the food for us, you should rather close the school.
Yes. The aggrieved students in their uniforms came out in their numbers and tried to destroy the school's properties, but the timely intervention of the GES director, Mr. John Suka, and his officials brought the situation under control.
Please remain in your houses, and then we will meet. When we meet, by Monday, the Petra will be in, and then you can report back.
The school has temporarily been closed, and only the third-year students have been asked to stay in the school to complete their mock examination.
The protest at Binduri Senior High School there. Now, Thelma, some context.
Just two or three more things, and then I'll end. So this school is one out of many, maybe who would not come out to say, for reasons best known to them, that this is the situation. I think that before the free SHS also, the schools had the mandate or the burden of having to get food, to feed the students.
Because parents had to pay.
Indeed, parents had to pay. And then that was more decentralized. So you not hear some of these cases, but now that it is centralized and the free education policy where you are relying on a central unit to have to send food, once you have these bottlenecks at these central points, the supply may halt. Also more worrying is the fact that you hear the suppliers say that, so government is owing us and decides that I'll truncate the contract that I have with you, and then starts engaging other suppliers. You understand? You leave my debt and then you go to actually contract another, to give you the same supplies that, well, I haven't said I'll stop supplying. And so maybe we should take a look at how we have actually centralized the supply of food. That is one. And then again, you see, Thelma, as a country, we are bent on increasing enrollment and retaining these kids in school. And if you have, studies have shown that free SHS, of course, with a feeding component also, has actually retained a few numbers in school. And so with this news that food shortage, and other things that, I heard one of them said, we don't have a toilet facility, and we have to attend to nature's call in the bush. That, it must not be said of a country like Ghana. A toilet facility cannot be built. And that is why we get frustrated at the fact that, so if a by-election lies in wait elsewhere, both parties can go there and actually put and pull in resources.
There are schools that have toilet facilities that don't have water, and so the facilities are forced to to be.
You understand what I mean? And so it is not just about the suppliers, it's about the students, about teachers, about academic work, about the health of the students, and the outcomes we are even looking at from these students.
Because some are preparing for exams as well.
Indeed.
So you have to think
so the school is forced to keep them there.
But that's a day school.
Well, so like I was saying,
is a day school. So what's the policy on feeding at day schools? Is it that they are also given food like the boarding schools? Because these are students who come to school and then go home at the end of the day. Do they also get fed in school?
So like I was telling you, it is. I'm sure it is some selected schools that have been targeted. You know, in my previous comment that we want to increase the enrollment and to retain them in school. So whilst other schools are just doing the boarding and you have to go and eat breakfast, lunch and dinner, some of these day schools are targeted so that we get them to be in school, we get them to stay in school and to learn. And I'm sure that is the case of the Binduri Senior High School.
Right, ladies, let's see what the newspapers are telling us this morning. I'll start with the Daily Graphic. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta pictured there with the World Bank Managing Director for Operations, Anna. World Bank supports reforms with $900 million. First tranche expected in November. And so more to expect for the economic empowerment drive. Constituency Watch focusing on Lejokuku unique, assertive voter population. UGMC, they were our guests recently on the breakfast table to establish units for trial of medicines, also in the paper. GPAC invests 3 million Ghana cedis in packaging equipment, launches 50th anniversary today. Police will play role in free elections. IGP assures ECOWAS. Meanwhile, the IGP is in the news over an alleged plot to get him out of office, which the government has denied. Perhaps the ladies will have a bite on that. A literary giant has fallen. President Akufo-Addo mourned with the family of Professor Amata Edu yesterday at her state funeral, and our mother has since been laid to rest. Council of State office to be rebuilt at 6 million Ghana cedis. That story on page 13 of the Ghanaian Times. The actual building costs 4.6, so the rebuilding is 6 million. We'll get some clarity on that. Dr. Punik goes to SC, challenges Court of Appeal verdict. That situation still continuing. Supreme Court decides child rights suit on street children November 22, so quite a few weeks to wait for that to happen. PAC, Public Accounts Committee, cracks the whip. Officials of 12 GES offices land in hot water, face prosecution over 1 million procurement breaches. Photograph of Dr. James Kluche Aveji, who is the chair of the commission, with that story. Of course, the Finder newspaper also leading with Ghana mourning Professor Amata Edu. Ghana will forever be grateful to Professor Edu for a tremendous contributions to Ghana. The president is attributed with this story. LGBTQ in the news again, and it's the National House of Chiefs speaking this time, saying it is evil and abominable to our values. Dr. Ankra hints of clear vision to transform Ghana. More persons stepping into the political space. Bagbin sets up 7-member committee to probe leaked IGP tape. IJM police falsely branding kids as trafficking victims. The BBC has released a new African Eye documentary. You should check it out in the details in the Final newspaper, page 13. So, ladies, these are the stories that are before us this morning. I find it quite fascinating, this Council of State building that has to be rebuilt. Perhaps I'll get the details in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The frontage and some aspects of the Council of State office building near the Parliament House in Accra are to be pulled down and rebuilt at an estimated cost of 6 million Ghana cedis. This is because the building, completed in 2016 at the cost of 4.6 million Ghana cedis, is said to have been constructed out of plan and unfit for purpose due to challenges including insufficient space in the meeting room. The acting executive secretary to the council, Stephen Blade, told the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament in Accra on Wednesday that the communication system in the room deprived them of privacy during meetings, while the facility also lacked a sewage system and private places of convenience. So these are the reasons that have been named, at least the initial ones that the graphic has highlighted at the top of the story. It said that when the council realized that the building constructed and supervised by the Public Works Department was not suitable, it invited the Ghana Institute of Architects to inspect, resulting in the conclusion that the building needed to be remodeled. And so the remodeling is what will take place. So some more details in the Ghanaian Times. Get the paper, page 13, and read. Ladies, what are your thoughts? So a whole building has been constructed, and now we are told by the acting secretary that it was not up to standard. So we have to do it again.
This
Pull
is
the frontage.
It's outstanding. I mean, it's a very. I'm gobsmacked at what you're just reading to me right now, and I think that the Public Works Department has a number of questions to answer, because we are being told by the story that they supervised the construction of that building. And tell me again, how much is this supposed to cost us for
6 million Ghana cedis
for a building that was built at 4.6 million Ghana
in 2016?
Cedis. In 2016. How many years ago? Not very long ago, about 7 years ago.
7 years.
I think that some people have to answer questions, and the first being the Public Works Department. What happened? What went wrong? I mean, did they not have the plan for the construction? Was there no engineers on site? Were there no... because I don't want to believe that the Public Works Department does not have the capacity or the human resource capacity to have been able to supervise this building more effectively.
Yes, some more quotes in the story. It said that when the 7th Council took office, it was discovered that the building was put up out of plan. So I want to understand what out of plan means. The edifice over there doesn't have a single suitable meeting room. The council is a 31-member council, but the meeting room in the building has a capacity for only 15 people. The sewage system was never done. The communication system, when you're at the top and you speak, the people who are on the ground floor all hear the things that you're saying. So the council felt it wasn't appropriate to occupy at that time. So he was answering some questions emanating from the 2021 Auditor General's report on ministries, departments and agencies, which noted that the council building remained unoccupied. So because there was a question of why the building was not occupied, they invited them to answer.
Is that
and this is the
building an edifice like this. It is not a one-day job. So throughout the process of the construction, nobody had the presence of mind to be able to answer these questions regarding the building, the integrity of this building. You see, we keep acting like we are a rich country with money to waste. And I don't know, I'm just so surprised and I'm so saddened, because this is not the first time. If you're listening to the Public Accounts Committee and the sheer wastage in the system, and that's how the public service system is one of the problems of this country, and we must speak truth to them. In fact, I think that they are more of the problem than the politicians who come and go. Because how could this have been allowed to happen?
Well,
number one,
at the Public Accounts Committee, GES officers have also landed in trouble, and the Ghanaian Times also carrying the story that management of 12 Ghana Education Service offices in 6 regions are to face prosecution for procurement breaches amounting to 1 million, so upwards of 1 million Ghana cedis. They comprise the districts and municipal offices in Tema, Lejokuku, Ga Central in Greater Accra, Ebriakwa North in Eastern, Tumu in Upper West, Hohwe in Volta, Seshri Draboso, Awing and Seshri Akontomra in Western North, and Isikuma Dobin Brakwa, Trifopraso and Heman in the Central Region. So all these things are coming up at the Public Accounts Committee sitting. The committee is seeking answers to infractions in the report of the Auditor General's report, like I said, and it said that 12 offices violated Section 20 of the Public Procurement Amendment Act, which requires entities to request quotations from as many suppliers or contractors as practicable, but from at least 3 different sources. And these sources should not be related in terms of ownership, shareholding, or directorship, and the principles of conflict of interest should apply between the procurement entities. So all these rules were flouted, and now these 12 offices of GES, so Ghana Education Service, has breached procurement procedures, and now 12 of these offices are owing upwards of just a little over 1 million Ghana cedis. So feeding into the narrative that you just shared, Sham.
Yes, and so I mean the bottom line is that there's so much leakages in the public sector. I think the public sector reforms that was instituted some time back was to really deal with all of these things, but we ended up focusing more on just the single spine salary. I remember interviewing Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndum several times. Look, the entire public sector reforms agenda is not only about salary or single spine. There are issues of institutional reforms that are required. There are issues of capacity. There are issues of accountability, you know, and because we always touch and go, we always find that we are never able to reform any sector efficiently and effectively so that they will be able to work at least at a certain optimum, because these things are not forgivable. These things are things that happen every day, and it's causing financial loss to the state. And we must continuously see that people who breach the laws of this country, who cost the taxpayer money, they should be made to face the law. Yeah. We don't see that. So let's hope that we'll be able to follow these stories through and see that people are actually being punished for the breaches that they cause, leading to needless loss of important revenue to the state, unfortunately.
So yesterday, now I'll pick your thoughts in a short while. The chairman of the commission on the Council of State office situation was not very happy. So he's requested to see a copy of the assessment which suggested, or which proposed or recommended that the frontage or part of the building should be pulled down. There was a counter offer on the table from Member of Parliament for Commenda Edina Iguafuabrim, Samuel Atamils, who suggested that instead of pulling the part of the building down, it should be given to the Zango Development Fund, which is looking for an office building and was spending close to 60,000 Ghana cedis a month on rent. So he suggested that a new building should be constructed for the Council of State, a suggestion which Mr. Blaze said he would communicate to the council for consideration. So there's a counter offer that if it's not fit for your purpose, some other people need the space. They are paying 60,000 for rent a month. I wonder where
they don't need a sewage system. You're telling us that there's a non-existent sewage system. So these new occupants you're proposing, how are they supposed to deal with the kind of problems that have been identified,
which will be solved
wrong
with
with
6
this
million?
problem?
And some people too are owing 1 million in procurement breaches for Ghana Education Service.
And so Thelma, you see, let me just not belabor the point. Shams has said enough that we are in this country, and every time we are crying over resources, non-existent, or whether it exists in the pockets of few, we can't even find the resources in this country. And so if we pay taxes, and out of those taxes, sweats of the Ghanaian people, you are to put up an edifice. It must be put up with a certain longevity of service in mind. Just by the mere fact that maybe you see resources around you shouldn't make you want to request for a new building because the current one is not fit for purpose. When did that phrase "fit for purpose" come in? And like Sham said, the duration of putting up the building and commissioning it and everything, nobody saw that this building was not fit for purpose, and it was cleared, assessments were made, and contractor paid and is going to spend the money, and we have to go and look for another money and put up another edifice for the Council of State. At the you see, the only thing that will convince me is that maybe at the time that it was built, there were only 15 people or less, appointed onto the membership of the Council of State.
Did they need sewage and facilities to be
No, I'm even centering my argument on the meeting space. I said it's just 15. But even if it's just 15, what if you have an invitation? So what if you invite others to join you in a meeting? So you shouldn't account for 15 seats. And say that, well, this building now is no more fit for purpose. See, sometimes let us cry for Ghana.
It's not that it's no more. It is unoccupied.
No, so Thelma, the basic argument also is that let us cry for Ghana, okay, and let us also always commit to the judicious use of the little resources. Taxes are hard to come by. A friend of mine told me, Nana, do you know why we are where we are as a country? People we elect or appoint into places, okay, to solve the problems. Once they get to those positions, they are exempted from the very problems we elected them to solve.
So they forget.
They forget. They don't live the reality. There is no connection. Because, of course, if you put a politician in there and by the next day he's driving a V8, what is this beef about potholes on your road? Now, you see, I'm not surprised the remodeling is more expensive than the amount of money that was put into the building. I've had instances like that. I mean, having to see projects that are being remodeled, you know, and then it is costing more because I think that you are breaking apart, you are spoiling some things, and then you have to replace. You spoil the good things. You understand? You have to spoil a Turkish door that was bought just maybe was repaired just about, you know, even 2016, maybe last week, a door was spoiled and you have to put a new door there, and now you are breaking all those doors. Tell me, finally on this matter, I think people don't have foresight in this country. Because if you have foresight and you know that, I mean, the Council of States could grow, it could grow, and then they will need this. They will for a council such a distinguished position, you know. And then you put up a building that with what foresight? The contractor, the person who awarded the contract, with what foresight did they actually put up that building? And to say that they need another, well, that's all we can say. Thelma,
I suspect
that's all we can say.
This project, this proposal would meet the fated fate of the National Cathedral project. I'm not sure that within any reasonable space of time, especially in these times that we know we are in, and all this, you know, measures, the IMF conditionalities and government's own announcement of putting a hold on some projects, I don't think this is going to realize.
You mentioned
to be realized soon, so we may have to drop not the chamber this time, but whatever it is, we must have to.
You
mentioned
two things. The IMF program, government is expecting a first tranche of 900 million to arrive. Finance Minister.
Second, rather.
Yes,
second. First scheme.
So this one said it's expected in November. So there's an agreement to support Ghana's reforms with 900 million. And the support is under the Development Policy Operations for the period 2023 to 2025. It's expected to front load the first tranche to the country by November if Ghana is able to meet prior actions and present the final document to the World Bank Executive Board by the end of October. So apart from the one that we have, so we have an IMF program, but the World Bank is also going to give us some 900 million. Finance Minister is leading that conversation. It's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Get it. But because you mentioned the National Cathedral, you know there's a National Cathedral case before the courts, and it's to do with Reverend Kusi Boateng and then Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. Yesterday, the Human Rights Division, sorry on page 27 of the Daily Graphic, the Human Rights Division of the Accra High Court dismissed an application by Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, a.k.a. Kwabena Edu Jemfi, which sought to restrain the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, from discussing him in relation to the National Cathedral project. Story goes on. Reverend Boateng, a.k.a. Mr. Jemfi, filed the application under Article 33 of the 1992 Constitution, seeking an enforcement of his fundamental human rights. In the judgment yesterday, the court, presided over by Justice Barbara Tete Chawe, held that an application under Article 33 implied the enforcement of a human right of a person or entity with personal interest. According to the court, the two distinctive identities, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng and Kwabena Edu Jemfi, meant it was not clear which of the two identities sought the enforcement of the human rights. And so the court dismissed the contention of Reverend Boateng, a.k.a. Mr. Edu Jemfi, that the two names referred to the same person, and held that how the two names had been deployed meant two completely separate identities. Because of the lack of clarity of the person seeking the enforcement of human rights, that is whether Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng or Kwabena Edu Jemfi, the court dismissed the application for lack of capacity or locus standi. Apart from dismissing the case, the court also slapped Reverend Boateng, aka Mr. Edu Jemfi, with a cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis. We know the background to this story. Mr. Ablakwa petitioned Shraj to investigate Reverend Kusi Boateng, aka Mr. Edu Jemfi, over an alleged conflict of interest, including possession of multiple identities and other alleged criminal dealings. And the MP alleged that there was a transfer of 2.6 million from the National Cathedral Secretariat to JNS Talent Center Limited, owned by Reverend Boateng, under a secondary identity, Kwabena Edu Jemfi. And so, details on page 27 of the Daily Graphic. But because Shamima mentioned National Cathedral, that's why I brought this up.
It's a classic case of sending thyself to the gallows. Because this man took himself to court, isn't it? To try and vindicate some rights of his.
And the court says, which of you is speaking? Which of the identities are you asking?
I mean, you're giving your own self a technical knockout.
You know,
giving yourself a slap in the face. That's
which means you're almost conceding to the claims of Ablakwa that this man has multiple identities.
So perhaps we should speak to a lawyer and find out what this ruling means for the criminal case that Mr. Ablakwa is alleging against Reverend Kusi Boateng, because it's the court's ruling that the two names had been deployed in a way that meant two completely separate identities. Should we use that as an establishment of fact that one person has two identities?
Well,
is that what the court is telling us?
The court would establish that. But whilst you read, it was captured beautifully. Anytime you mention him, there is AKA somewhere. And then from what I know, AKA it's just like also maybe a nickname, but also known as, shouldn't be like another formal name. So my name is Nacha Nyupi. So and then AKA I'm also known as
the court has not told us whether the man actually has to identify. And that's why I'm saying maybe we should get a lawyer to help us understand what this High Court ruling means. Because otherwise we would risk, and the AG has warned us about this, would risk, commenting on an ongoing case and prejudicing the public against it. So I want to understand, is the court saying the man has two identities or not? So it's a question I am asking.
Yes, so I'm also not trying to answer, but from what you read, what the court is trying to say is that we are not sure who is actually in front of us. Is it Thelma in front of us, or it is Na? Is it Shamima in front of us, or is the producer?
Right.
And so the court is not so clear who is. So I won't even address your matter.
Let's rest it then.
Not so sure.
And let's speak about. You see, ongoing cases. It's hard to toe, a fine line because nothing concrete. The court has not pronounced any judgment. And it's the same with this alleged leaked tape on the IGP that we've heard this week. Parliament is telling us that case should be investigated. And the story is on page 19 of the Daily Graphic. Parliament is to constitute an inquiry into the alleged leaked tape concerning discussions about the possible removal of the Inspector General of Police, IGP, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, from office. The move came after the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, agreed to an application by members of Parliament MPs for a thorough forensic audit to be carried out to unravel those behind the tape. He, however, said by the standing orders, there was the need for him to give proper direction as to the nature and type of investigation to be conducted going into the tape. So Parliament is also, there's a probe that is being called for after the leaked tapes that we've listened to over the past few days. And some people are saying, well, it's with an eye on election 2024. Others are saying it's just a power move. We just want to, some shake-ups in the police system. Is that what it is? It's just an internal thing. And the names that were dropping in the leaked tape that I heard, big names were in there. Everybody's, person was in there. So what's your take on this whole thing? Leaked tapes are becoming very, very...
They're in the system for a while. By now, I'm sure the IGP is singing and dancing to the song, "Enemies no be God, though. They won't see my downfall." Because this one, if there were any thoughts and plans to remove him, now that this leaked tape is in the public office, no such action would come to materialize, especially as the Interior Minister has now come to tell us that there's no such intention of removing the IGP. So unless something actually does come up that impugns the integrity of something of evidential value, they can't seem to take any action now, because if they take any action, so their hands are very much tied behind their backs, whoever it is that is within this group of people who were plotting this against.
If it is found to be authentic.
Yes, if it's found, well, I think that there's a general sense when you hear these things, you would know if there's some truth to the voices and the context and the conversation and the flow of conversation. Some people try to suggest on social media that, oh, it's AI. I mean, this is a long flowing conversation with descriptions and things. So I think that the police has also said they're going to do a police inquiry bill. They have identified the alleged officer, in the midst of that video. So they would ask them to step aside whilst they face the police own internal mechanisms to investigate. But I think that now more than ever, people must really become more cautious about the things they say and where they say these things. Trust is very lacking in our side of the world.
It sounded like a conversation. If all three of us had met in my house, several issues would come up, right? And so in the safety of the bond, you
unless there's no safety in the bond, unless there is an assumption of safety within that bond. So if you're not sure of the safety of the bond, I mean, be more cautious about what you say, because right now everybody is at risk. People are being recorded, on their blind side,
and it's exactly the point I want to make.
And everything.
Should we have a conversation? Because in other countries the law is crystal clear. If you don't have somebody's permission to record them, do not do it. Even in Ghana we have such. Should we go on this education drive to let people know that, listen, I might stay in the same house with you, I might be in the same office with you, we might sit in the same studio and have the same conversations, but you cannot record me without my consent.
But Thelma, you see, so beyond the education, people would always want to achieve a certain interest, okay? And I'm sure the person who recorded may not be the person who leaked. There's also that possibility. So the one who recorded had
what was the intention for recording? If you had
so Thelma, fortunately, the voices and the names in the tape, they are with us. They are alive. And so even for me, those asking, those calling for forensic audit or whatever of the tape, I'm like, these are the people. Ask them, is it you? Because when I hear my voice, I know where I've spoken. Okay, so this is me. Do we even have to
if there's doctoring over, I said it's context.
And see, it is
so much work.
It could be that there was a full recording and portions of it were cut and
it was so that
fluid. It portrays a certain picture.
And there's also that possibility. But the media, that's what we do. We do all the time. We go and cover a story. We come and take something and then you then write a story.
But then you see,
055561034, our WhatsApp number. Share your thoughts with us. All the stories that we've talked about. The Parliament will investigate, or is to set up a committee. The Speaker will set up a committee to investigate the alleged leak tape on the IGP. We've talked about the World Bank on its way to offer $900 million to Ghana in November. The story on the front page of the Daily Graphic says, if we meet the remaining requirements, submit all the necessary forms, then we will be getting that money. Finance Minister says we'll get it by November.
Well, I hope that when we get it, we'll actually use it for the reforms as stipulated.
Well, the National Cathedral case is also ongoing. Reverend Kusi Boateng fails to gag Blackwell is what the Daily Graphic is saying. And of course, Amartaidu is also in the news. I just want to invite you to share your thoughts with us. I'll be going to the screen. Ladies, we want to share our thoughts on the good professor who went, who was seen off quite respectfully yesterday at the state funeral.
Well, so for me, I always say that have a certain attraction to people who are able to express themselves, by writing or by speaking. And the last time I watched you and her family and Jay had that reading of her works here, I actually had goosebumps. I'm like, the tongue actually never dies. And so for me, the good prof is going to rest. But she is with us. I mean, when I say she is with us, anytime you take, whether Anoa or No Sweetness, any of them that you take, you actually have her with us. And so let's continue to read. It's the best respect we can pay to her. And then let's inculcate that in the younger generation. Let's read. See, let's do away with the cliche that if you want to hide something from the African or the Ghanaian, put it in books.
This is
so much. We are reading.
If you launch your book right now.
And we are writing.
And we are writing.
And we are opening up about issues and topics that hitherto we wouldn't speak about.
And we are having conversations.
Even for a woman born at the time in which she was born, she was very vocal about things, topical issues that we talk about today. Feminism. I mean, today, Shams.
I mean, slavery. You know,
she addressed
modern day slavery
head on, and her bravery is
spot on.
And her daughter Kina was here saying that that's always been her mother's power, the power to use her voice. And when she recognized it at a very early age, she realized that that's something nobody can take away from you unless you see that power. And for many women, we suffer in silence and we are often unable to speak our truths or to even, use our voices to speak about things that we know are important to us. And then we end up suffering. So I think that the legacy for her would be to encourage many more females to write, to first of all find their voice, and to find the medium that they are most comfortable to express that voice in. You don't have to all be writers. Some can be speakers, some can be journalists, but wherever you find yourself as a woman, use your voice. Find it and use it, and then leave a legacy behind. So we hope and we pray for the peaceful repose of her soul. May we all continue to be inspired by her works and her life and her story and her admonitions, and be able to also leave some legacy behind when our time is up on earth.
Right. So here are your thoughts using your voice on our screen. Our WhatsApp number 0555561034. We'll be wrapping up very shortly, so send your thoughts and comments to us right now. Fred is leading. Good morning, Thelma. I love your panel as usual. Please, some people must answer for this shoddy work on the Council of State building. Alhaji Dauda, good news. Photo up. The President of Ghana and former President John Mahama consolidation of democratic systems of governance at Professor Amata Idu's funeral service yesterday. Condolences to the daughter of Professor Amata Idu and to the government of Ghana. Alhaji Dauda from Madina Estate. Please, this is a day school, 1 hot meal a day. So now that they are home, will they eat or not? Hey.
Auntie Peggy.
Auntie Peggy inspiring.